It's such an honor to have you. I do mean the thing about your Instagram. It's full of all kinds of delicious looking food. You make some really, really tasty food.
Thank you. I think, first of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. We can attribute about 99% of that to Maria Emmerich. She's the queen. She taught me everything I know when it comes to cooking in the kitchen and carnivore cooking, especially. So she's the best. But thank you so much. I take a lot of pride in that because we really have turned this into a lifestyle for us. It's not just a diet for us. This is our lives. So we may as well embrace it, make it look beautiful, and make it taste delicious too while we're at it. So.
Absolutely. Oh, I absolutely love that. It's kind of funny today on my Facebook time hop, whatever, it showed like a picture that I posted 10 years ago. So 2014, I'd been a trainer for maybe 7 years. And the whole post was like, make sure you take your Sundays to do your meal preps. And all of my meal preps were covering the counter. Like the entire counter was filled with salads and the yogurts and the measured out almonds and all of these things. And I look back, I'm like, that's cool that I was eating healthy. But not only does that food like not look good to me at all anymore, but like food prep now is like eggs, hard boiled eggs, or like burger patties, or like it's so much easier now.
Yes, I agree. And I can completely relate. I always joke that I keep Facebook around on purpose for the memories because I crack my former self up. Like looking a decade back, how I managed like meal times with the kids and how I ate. And I was a kind of chronic oversharer on Facebook world for a long time. So reading my posts and just all my ridiculousness, I'm like, autumn. But it's okay because it all came together. I figured it out, and here I am today. So it's
Yeah,
fine.
fantastic. It's a good reminder for sure.
A
I
humble
think back on
reminder.
that
Absolutely.
when I said like you need to take Sunday to do your meal prep, you literally needed all of Sunday. Like it took that long to shop and prep and shop and throw
Yep.
food away, and yeah, ridiculous. Um,
Yes.
Podcasting has been awesome for me. I've really, really enjoyed this process. And part of what I really love is getting to talk to some of my heroes, to talk to Maria, to talk to Craig, to say, like, I've been following you guys for years. I bought your cookbooks. I love your work. Like, that's really amazing. And I really love that part. And the other part about podcasting that I really like is talking to people that maybe I wouldn't have gotten to talk to otherwise. And again, that's kind of how you and I got hooked up. You've been on several podcasts before, but I don't know that I necessarily would have found you besides the fact that you and I were messaging around about Maria's episode. And I kind of started looking at you like, wow, she's got an amazing story too. And so it's been really fun also to find others out there who have found alternate information, have gone through tremendous struggles in their lives. And knowing the little that I know about your story, you have gone through a lot in your life, haven't you?
Absolutely. And I agree with you full circle. The people that I've been able to meet and engage with on the internet since really putting myself out there has been really incredible. Just not only in the carnivore keto space, but just everywhere. There's a wealth of knowledge to be had and inspiration, but also there's this dark side. You got to really know your sources, and that's where the geek part of me really comes into play because I am a very studious person. I like to read, I like to learn, I like to analyze. Craig Emmerich and I really get along in that sense because he's a very,
Sounds like it.
very smart man, and I really thrive on that too. So yeah, I will. I'm one of those girls. I'll listen to anything you have to say, but I'm gonna go do some research and make sure it makes sense to me before I take off with it. So
Just before we get into your study, on that note, like as you've been studying this more and more and more, I kind of like to say that like things that are true become more and more and more true the more you study them. And other things that we think are true that over time kind of become a little bit more convoluted, or we have more doubts about things like, for example, the link between like heart disease, cholesterol, saturated fat. Like we thought that for so long, but now there's like so many holes in that. So being a person who's very studious, how has been your kind of journey through this? And do you feel more confident now that the path that you're on is the correct one?
absolutely, 110%. I always tell the story of where I started this journey, which was on December 31st of 2018, was the day I decided enough was enough. And I didn't decide like in that very moment. It was a very intentional decision for me. And the reason I decided to start my health journey was because I had spent the last year leading up to that kind of quietly reading and studying and following certain keto and carnivore doctors and influencers years because I had tried paleo, I had tried Whole30, I had tried Weight Watchers, I had tried starvation, cabbage soup diets. I, did the whole crazy over exercising thing. Like I did everything you can think of to lose weight and get healthy. And I just was, nothing seemed to stick for me. And it's at some point before that day, December 31st, 2018, maybe a year prior, is when I found Maria Emmerich on Facebook. And something about her, whatever post I saw caught my attention. And the first thing I noticed was all of her recipes are gluten-free. Oh my gosh, this is great because I have celiac disease. I need to know more. And then I just dove into this rabbit hole. I got her books, I read them, I followed her quietly for probably a year. And then I finally was like, all right, this lady knows what she's talking about. I'm going to give it a try. And that was over 5 years ago. And here I am today. So
That's amazing to take that much time to study. At some point, you must have been like mostly converted. Did it feel like it was like a cognitive dissonance of you like learning and thinking like, I think this might be right, but I'm also maybe not exactly like diving in what I'm actually doing?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you do jump into something like this that seems so unconventional, right? It's so against everything we were raised to believe about diet and nutrition and what's healthy and what's not. And I had to break through all of those barriers. And because I am, a very fact and science-based driven person, I not only wanted to feel and see the benefits, I wanted to be able to understand the whys. Like, why is this really going to work? And that's why I did so much studying leading up to it. Now, let's be real. I also still was kind of hesitant to give up my beer and my M&Ms. Okay. So I drug my feet a little bit.
Let's be reasonable here. Beer and M&Ms, come on.
Like, let's just be real. I was an absolute sugar and alcohol fiend. And I just, that day, something about December 31st, 2018, I was like, I can't start on January 1st because we all know what happens with the New Year's resolutioners, right? So I couldn't do that. So I started on December 31st and I literally never looked back. I've just evolved further and further since that day. So.
Savage. I love it. The very last day of the year. So savage. That's awesome. Okay, well, let's talk about your story. Did you grow up in Indiana? Did you guys just end up there? Like, what was your life like?
So I grew up in the South. So if you can imagine, I grew up on like soul food. I drank Kool-Aid and sweet tea. I don't know if I drank plain water until I was an adult. I ate a very typical Southern like comfort food type diet. I originally moved to Indiana when I was about 8 years old and then spent the rest of my childhood and young adult years kind of moving back and forth between Georgia and Indiana with family members. But I've been here in Indiana now permanently we're going on 17 or 18 years now that I've been here. And this will be my home until my kids grow up. My youngest is 10 right now. So we've got 8 more years. I'm counting down the days and then we're going to move. I don't know where. My husband wants mountains. I want ocean. So we're going to have to compromise.
Yes, you will. Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. So when, eating that way, I can imagine what your childhood would have been like. Did you feel like you had a tough time concentrating in school? Were you overweight? Like what things were you kind of dealing with as you were growing up?
So my story is a little interesting because I have a few different factors that come into play. The first one is I firmly believe that I had celiac disease active at birth or very soon after. The reason I say that is because even as an infant, I suffered failure to thrive. I was very small. I was extremely colicky. My parents always tell the story about how I was the kid out of 5 kids that just screamed all the time and could not be consoled. And at one point, my mom said when I was a toddler, they actually accused her of malnourishing me because I was so skinny. And she took me to the doctor and I had like a belly full of, I don't know, ravioli or whatever it was. And they were like, you're not feeding this kid. No, they were feeding me, but they were feeding me a standard American diet. And at the time, I didn't know what normal was. I've been sick my whole life, right? So to me, I thought you eat and your tummy bloats a little bit and you don't feel good. I didn't even think anything of it